Again, let us sing the song, Holy Spirit, thou art welcome here. Let us invite the Holy Spirit in our presence so that the word that will be prayed today will have that power in our life. Amen. Let us not grieve the Holy Spirit. Let us not hurt the Holy Spirit. Amen. Let us sing, Holy Spirit, thou art welcome.
the things that you are unfolding to us. We thank you for the bread of life that continually inspire our faith and make us spiritually healthy.
Amen.
And Lord, as we come to your word, we ask for your divine anointing, Father. And as the hearers, I pray, Lord, that you would make their heart ready to receive your word. May they receive your word with gladness of heart, because Lord, we know, Lord, that your word is our guide, your word is our strength. Lord, bless the ministry of your word. These we ask in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Praise the Lord. We'll be reading from the book of Proverbs. Let me just the slides. Are we happy?
Amen.
It's always good to see the people of God and gather in one place, fellowship in His presence. It's always a good thing to praise the Lord and to feast on His word. So let's read from Proverbs 31, verse 10. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband that safely trusts in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant's sheep, she bringeth her food from afar. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion to her maidens. She considereth a field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hand she planted a vineyard. She girded her loins with strength, and strengtheneth her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good, her candle goeth not out by night. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the staff. She stretcheth out her hands to the poor, yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry, her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates, when he sitteth among the elders of the land. She maketh fine linen and selleth it, and delivered girdles unto the merchant. His strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in the time to come. She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praiseth her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest in all. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates.
Amen.
Praise the Lord. May the Lord bless the reading of His word. You may have your seats. God bless you. So in our midweek service, I gave you an introduction of from the book of Proverbs. because we know that we could get a lot of wisdom from Solomon because the Lord has given him wisdom. Although there are lots of maxims and proverbial sayings that were written by men, but the book of Proverbs in the Old Testament is different because we know that that's inspired. That's inspired Proverbs because it was actually God giving Solomon wisdom to make these Proverbs. So I was thinking if I would only discuss the book of Proverbs in our midweek services, I think I wouldn't be enough to cover everything from the book of Proverbs. So I decided also to take some wisdom from the book of Proverbs in our Friday services as well, because it has 31 chapters, and we would like to be blessed by these. I remember when we had a family series before, I concentrated on the responsibility and roles of the husband. So today we'll tackle also the responsibilities and roles of a virtuous woman. Although I'll talk also about the husband, but we will focus mainly about the virtuous woman of Proverbs 31. Because I know that the Bible is a balanced book.
Amen.
It's not just about mysteries, but it teaches us, a relationship. You could see that in the writing of the Apostle Paul. Apostle Paul didn't only write about mysteries. He spoke about the relationship of husband and wife, employers and employees, parents and children, and many others. He taught us how to respect authorities, human government. So we could see that the Bible is balanced. Okay? So it's not good if you are very deep in the prophetic side and yet you have a messy family or your family is not in order. That's why we know that the Lord is concerned with all aspects of our life. And things that should be taught in the church should as well be balanced. So that's why this time, yes, we could also have some teaching from the book of Proverbs concerning family. Amen. The Lord is concerned with our family.
Amen.
Amen. That's the God that we serve. Praise God. There are a lot of things that we could extract from the book of Proverbs, but today we'll be focusing on the relationship between husband and wife. There are many books written about human relationship, and one of which is the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And millions of copies of this book have been sold around the world. Why? Because just everybody has people problems and wants to know how to solve them. A lot of people are having difficulty how to deal with people. Okay? With the members of their family or with their colleagues or people surrounding them or like their neighborhood and so on. So getting along with people is an important part of life. And the book of Proverbs is the best manual you'll find on people's skills because it was given to us by God who made us. He understands our framework, our makeup. The God will teach us what we need to know about human relationships, whether it's marriage, the family, the neighborhood, the job, or our wider circle of friends and acquaintances. Now, if we learn and practice God's wisdom as presented in Proverbs, we'll find ourselves improving in people's skills and enjoying much more. So today our focus would be on the human relationship between husband and wife. So we'll draw wisdom from this book that would bring joy and satisfaction in our marriage life, or that would improve our relationship with our spouse. Now, according to scriptures, God established 3 human institutions in the world, as you see in the slide. The first one is marriage and the home. We know when Adam was lonely, the Lord caused Adam to have a deep sleep. And we know that God took one of his ribs to make the woman. And the Lord presented her to the man, and the man said, "This is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh." So it was God who officiated the first marriage. So that's the first institution, marriage and the home. And the second is human government, and it was well discussed by Apostle Paul in Romans 13. So Apostle Paul instructed us to submit to human authorities, okay, except if it's contrary to God's word. And the third one is the local church. So we have a body universal, and we also have a local church. As you can see in the book of Acts, you would see there the birth of the church. So of the 3, the basic institution is the home. So as goes the home, so go the church and the nation. Now, the biblical views of marriage and the family have been so attacked and ridiculed in our modern society that it does us good to review what the creator of the home has to say about this, about his wonderful gift of marriage. And when we had our family series before, we've learned that the husband is to love his wife. And what kind of love? Okay, the way Christ loves the church. And the husband should be faithful to her. And in Proverbs chapter 5, verses 1 to 14, men were instructed to avoid immoral woman. Why? Because we have to be faithful to our wife. And, the book of Proverbs gave a lot of warning concerning these things, because that's one of the reason why many men, even men of God, fail because of women. So, if you would read, I won't be reading the whole Proverbs chapter 5, but if you see from verse 1 to 14, it's a warning to men concerning an immoral woman, that you have to avoid immoral woman. And as it continues here in verse 15, it says here, "Drink waters out of thine own cistern, and running waters out of thine own well." Now, it's figurative language. Okay, it's King Solomon means that you only share your love with your wife. Okay, drink waters only from thy own cistern. Okay, so you don't share love to a strange woman, but only to your wife. 16. It says here, "Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad, and rivers of waters in the street. Let them be only thine own, and not be strangers with thee." I'd like to read it in our Amplified Version. It says here, put in verse 17, "Confine yourself to your own wife. Let your children be yours alone, and not children of strangers with you." So the Bible teaches us faithfulness to our partner. And in verse 18, "Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth." Of course, that fountain represents the wife. In other words, let your fountain or wife be blessed with the rewards of faithfulness, and rejoice in the wife of thy youth. Let her be as the loving hind and pleasant roe. Let her breast satisfy thee at all times, and be thou ravished always with her love. And be thou ravished always with her love. It means, may always be captivated by her love. Verse 20, "And why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman. So we have to be careful. Men should not be captivated by a strange woman, immoral woman. Okay. So, why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman and embrace the bosom of a stranger? And verse 21 says, for the ways of man are before the eyes of the Lord, and he pondereth all his goings. In other words, the Lord sees clearly what a man does, what he thinks and what he does, examining every path he takes. And of course, also the wife is not to forsake her husband and seek her love elsewhere. She has also to be faithful to her husband. Now, to read that, so this is for the wife. Proverbs 2, verse 16 to 17. So it's talking about a strange woman or an immoral woman. So to deliver thee, so the man, okay, to deliver thee from thy strange woman, even from the stranger which flattereth with her words. So we have to be careful with woman with seductive words to flatter us, seducing words. Verse 17, which forsaketh the guide of her youth. In other words, this kind of woman forsaketh her husband. She's the guide of her youth. She is not faithful and forgetteth the covenant of her God. So you would see from those verses that husband and wife are to enjoy each other and grow in their love for each other and for the Lord. You know, in ancient days, marriages were arranged by parents. Our modern system of two people falling in love and getting married would be foreign to their thinking and their culture. In that day, a man and a woman got married and they learned to love each other. So it's after marriage that they learn to love each other because it's an arranged marriage. So they expected to stay together for life. Today, a man and woman learn to love each other, then they get married. And everybody hopes they'll stay together long enough to raise the children. So this is now our modern day. So you build your relationship with a woman, then after that, you get into marriage. So you learn to love each other before even coming to the marriage. Now, so this is for the husband. Listen, Proverbs 19 verse 14. House and riches are the inheritance of fathers, and a prudent wife is from the Lord. Prudent wife is from the Lord. Okay, chapter 18 verse 22. Whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing, because a wife is a helpmeet. Okay, so whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing, and obtaineth favor of the Lord. You know what? Blessed is that marriage in which the husband acknowledges God's goodness to him in giving him a wife. Because it says here that he that whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing. So brothers, have you ever thanked God for your wife?
Amen.
Amen. Amen. So it's God's precious gift to us. So when because we know in the book of Genesis that this is God's loving way to solve man's loneliness or man's need for companionship. So thank God for my wife.
Amen. Amen.
So when a husband takes her for granted, he gives both her and the Lord. So he should love her and be loyal to her all the days of his life. Now, the book of Proverbs places on the husband the responsibilities of guiding the home according to the wisdom of God. The man should be the head, the leader of the home, and the man should be guided by the wisdom of God. Because the man's head is Christ.
Amen.
Okay, so we see that we see that taught by Paul, the headship. But as we shall see in Proverbs 31, the wife also plays an important part. Where two people love the Lord and love each other, God can guide and bless them. So it's not a 50-50 arrangement because two become one. Rather, it's 100% devotion to each other and to the Lord. Now, so this is for the wife. Proverbs 14 verse 1. Every wise woman buildeth her house, and the foolish woman, and the foolish plucketh it down with her hands. So what do you see here? So every wife will either build the home or tear it down. You see that? So if she walks with the Lord, she would be a builder. If she disobeys the wisdom of God, she will be a destroyer. And as godly women, we should be builder of our house, not a destroyer of our house. Proverbs 12 verse 4, it says here, a virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that maketh ashamed is a rottenness in his bones. So the wife must be faithful to her husband. For a wife of noble character, which means virtuous woman, is her husband's crown. But a disgraceful wife is like a decay in his bones. So the wife could either be a crown or a cancer. So you have to choose. Are you a crown to your husband, or are you a cancer? So I think there are lots of crowns here.
Amen.
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 So, and beauty isn't the only thing we should look for. It's also important that a wife has wisdom and discretion. Let's see. Proverbs 11 verse 22. As a jewel of gold in a swine's snout, so is a fair woman which is without discretion. So, she's beautiful, she's fair, but without discretion. She has no discernment. In other words, her lack of character mocks her beauty. You know, husbands occasionally create problems for their wives, but Solomon doesn't mention any of them. So, husbands, you're safe now. However, he does name some of the problems a wife might create for her husband. And let's read some of these problems that may be created by a wife for her husband. I hope it isn't a problem in your house. It says here, Proverbs 19 verse 13. A foolish son is the calamity of his father, and the contentions of a wife are a continual dropping. In other words, a constant dripping of water. Like in a rainy season, if there's a constant dripping of water, it irritates you. Right? So a wife who quarrels constantly creates the kind of atmosphere in a home that would tempt her husband to look for attention elsewhere. So, we should not be contentious. Proverbs 21 verse 9, it is better to dwell in a corner of the house than with a brawling woman in a wide house. What a wisdom. I was wondering, when I read the book of Proverbs all throughout, this verse was mentioned twice. It was also mentioned in chapter 25, verse 24. You know, when the Holy Spirit repeats itself, it must be something important. So that's why it's putting emphasis. So we repeat things to put emphasis. So could you imagine that? That was mentioned twice in the book of Proverbs. So it is better to dwell in a corner of the housetop. You know, when King Solomon was giving this, they have a flat house top, just like what we see here in the Middle East. So the men would choose to dwell in a house top, on that flat roof, exposed to weather, exposed to scorching heat, to blustering winds, to thunderstorms and showers of rain. He would choose to dwell on the housetop than with a brawling woman in a very wide house. See that? Because he wants peace of mind. Peace of mind. Lord, give me peace. Now, Proverbs 21 verse 19. It is better to dwell in the wilderness than with a contentious and angry woman. You know, the place in the wilderness, there's scarcity of food and water. But a man would rather dwell in the wilderness than being with a contentious and angry woman. Is it true? Yes. Amen. You know, because in the wilderness, you wouldn't be hearing your wife's voice. There's no human voice in the wilderness. Just the noise of the snakes and scorpions. So it is better to dwell in the wilderness than with a contentious and angry woman. This man, Solomon, has indeed wisdom. So Proverbs 27, 15 to 16. A continual dropping in a very rainy day and a contentious woman are alike. So you know what you are like if you are contentious. You are like a continual dropping in a rainy day. Verse 16. Whosoever hideth her hideth the wind, and the ointment of his right hand, which bewrayeth itself. I'd like to read it in another translation, New Living Translation. Okay, it says, in this translation, it says like this. A quarrelsome wife is as annoying as constant dripping on a rainy day. Stopping her complaints is like trying to stop the wind or trying to hold something with greasy hands. So it's difficult. It's really difficult. Of course, but let's be fair. And admit that the situation could also be reversed. Amen. And the husband be the culprit. Amen. Right? So I'm just reading you. But sometimes, you know, husbands are also to be blamed. Amen. Amen, Adilus. Say amen. Amen. So, for both husband and wife. Proverbs 6 verse 16. So these 6 things that the Lord hate, yea, 7 are an abomination unto him. So it mentioned several things. And the last part of that, so these are the things that God hate, and 7 are abomination unto him. So you could just read it from your Bible. If we jump to verse 19, it says here, a false witness that speaketh lies. So God hates that. And it says here, and he that soweth discord among brethren. So God hates family discord. And we should do everything we can to practice in the home the kind of love that produces unity and harmony. Now, the finest description of the ideal wife is found in Proverbs 30, 10 to 31. So what kind of woman is described here? I read to you Proverbs 31 verse 10 to 31 using a King James Version. But before we study that, let me read it in another translation. to make it simpler, then I will discuss about it. So this is from another translation. Okay. Proverbs 31 verse 10. Who can find a virtuous and capable wife? She is more precious than rubies. Her husband can trust her, and she will greatly enrich his life. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She finds wool and flax and busily spins it. She is like a merchant ship bringing her food from afar. She gets up before dawn to prepare breakfast for her household and plan the day's work for her servant girls. She goes to inspect a field and buys it, and her earnings she plants a vineyard. She is energetic and strong, a hard worker. She makes sure her dealings are profitable. Her lamp burns late into the night. Her hands are busy spinning thread, her fingers twisting fibers. She extends a helping hand to the poor and opens her arms to the needy. She has no fear of winter for her household, for everyone has warm clothes. She makes her own bedspreads. She dresses in fine linen and purple gowns. Her husband is well known at the city gates, where he sits with other civic leaders. She makes belted linen garments and sashes to sell to the merchants. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. She carefully watches everything in her household and suffers nothing from laziness. Her children stand and bless her. Her husband praises her. There are many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all. So this is the praise of the husband to her. Charm is deceptive, and beauty does not last. But a woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised.
Amen.
Reward her for all she has done. Let her deeds publicly declare her praise.
Amen.
You know what? Before I came here, my wife asked me if I could speak to their group led by her, which is young women adult gathering. So they're having a young women adult gathering back home, and she asked me if I could speak to them. And because their goal in that gathering is to be a virtuous woman, so I spoke about Proverbs 31, and I told them, you know what? If a woman would read Proverbs 31, 10 to 31, if they are honest enough, they may tell to themselves, oh, it seems like I'm not a virtuous woman, okay, with all the details given there. But in reading that, it shouldn't discourage you, but it should be a challenge, because there's always room for improvement. Okay. It doesn't mean that we're already perfect. Okay. We still have flaws, but we are striving to be a better wife and mother. Now, so let's talk about this woman of Proverbs 31. Now, this woman, she is a woman of character. Verse 10 to 12 tells us, who can find a virtuous woman? So when we say virtuous woman, that's a woman of character, a woman of strength, a woman of real ability. Okay. It says here, for her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband that safely trusts in her, so that she shall need, so that she shall have no need of spoil. In other words, that she will be faithful. That's why the husband trusts in her. Verse 12, she will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. Why? Because what was the reason why the woman was made to be unhelped? Okay. Meat means suitable. The Bible said, an helpmeet for Adam. A help suitable for Adam. You know what? God never intended woman to be servant of men. Women are not servants to men. But she is to be his partner, a real partner. Are you catching that, men? So women are not servants, but they are your partner. Now, if you would read Proverbs 3:15, it would show you that wisdom is more important than wealth. And the wisdom was personalized, and it used feminine gender, she. So just as wisdom is more important than wealth, so character is more important than jewels. Do you see that? The character is more important than jewels. Why? Because a virtuous woman, her price is far above rubies. Now, Peter gave the same counsel to Christian wives in his day, as we could read here. In 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 1 to 6. Likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands. Why? Because the husband is the head, so you have to recognize your authority as the head of the home. So be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, they also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wives. Apostle Peter here was dealing with Christians with unconverted husbands. So maybe when the wife got unconverted, the husband did not yet receive the word. So it says here, if any obey not the word, in other words, the husband does not obey the word, the gospel, they also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wife, while they behold your chaste conversation coupled with fear. In other words, you can win your husband without the gospel, without the word, by showing your godly character. Why? Because you become the living epistles. Okay? You don't need to lecture your husband. Okay? But just become a living epistles by your conversation or by your life, that he would behold. Okay? He would know what the gospel can do to him. Verse 3, whose adorning let it not be that outward adorning of plaiting the hair and wearing of gold, or of putting on of apparel. So the adorning is not outwardly. Okay, verse 4, but let it be the hidden man of the heart, the inner man. But let it be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God of great price. In other words, this meek and quiet spirit is precious in the eyes of God. This is the opposite of what we've read from the Proverbs, a contentious woman, a brawling woman. This is the opposite, because this is a woman with meek and quiet spirit. Touching that? So this is the real adornment of a woman. It's the meek and quiet spirit. And it says here in verse 5, for after this manner in the old time the holy women also, who trusted in God, adorned themselves, being in subjection unto their own husbands. In other words, the holy women of the old, okay, this is what they did. Okay, they adorned themselves, okay, with meek and quiet spirit. And give us an example here in verse 6. Even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord. Okay, another translation, calling him Master. Showing us how Sarah respects Abraham. That Sarah would even call Abraham her master. And she obeyed. And it says here, whose daughters ye are, so ye are daughters of Sarah, as long as ye do well and are not afraid with any amazement. So that's the real beauty of a woman. It's her character. It's her meek and quiet spirit. Even though you will try to beautify yourself, you buy new clothes that makes you beautiful. But if you don't have character, your husband would even notice it. Because character is the main thing. Of course, the same with the husband. Character is the main thing. You know, marriage doesn't change a person's character. That's why we have to be careful in choosing a partner. But most of us are married here. So if there are character weaknesses in either the husband or wife, marriage will only reveal and accentuate them. A husband or wife who hopes to change his or her spouse after the honeymoon is destined for disappointment. It doesn't happen that way. Some would be fallen in love with a person that has real bad character, and they would say, "Oh, it doesn't matter. Maybe after our honeymoon, I could change my husband," something like that. But they usually end up with disappointment. If the husband and wife trust each other, there will be harmony in the home. Her husband has no fears or suspicions as she is busy about her work, because she knows she has character and will do nothing but good for him and their children. And if bride and grooms take seriously the vows of love and loyalty they repeat to each other and to God at the altar, they will have a wall of confidence around their marriage that will keep out the enemy, every enemy. Now, second, concerning this virtuous woman, she's a woman who isn't afraid to work. A woman that's not lazy. Okay, we could see here a description of this woman, verse 13 to 15. She seeketh wool and flax and worketh willingly with her hands. Because during those times, they make their own clothing. So this woman, she will take wool and flax. These are materials for clothing for summer and winter. Verse 14. She is like the merchant ships that bringeth her food from afar. You know what merchant ships does? They usually trade their local goods to get other goods from another place. Okay, so they have to travel. So just imagine during those times, they have local goods, but in their locality, there are things that they needed from another place. So they try to do trading through ships. And it says here that this woman is like merchant ships. She bringeth her food from afar. During those times, they don't have yet grocery stores. Because nowadays we have lots of groceries that we could just get in and buy some food. So so for the woman to have a good meal, they would really travel from afar, to get some food that they would cook for their household. So it's showing that this woman is taking time and effort for food preparation. Are you catching that? So she's not a kind of mother that would give her children, French fries, feed them with junk food, or like in the morning, instant noodles. And no. In other words, this woman, prepares good meal. She would even travel from afar just to prepare a good meal for the household. That's why when you see the husband of this woman, really healthy children. So you could see that. And it says here, she riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household. In other words, she riseth early to prepare breakfast for the family. So when the children wakes up, or the husband, okay, there's breakfast already prepared for them. And a portion to her maidens. That portion means the work assignments. So she's organizing the task of her staff as a part of her daily routine. So this woman isn't afraid of work. She is very diligent and industrious. So that's one of the qualities of a virtuous woman. Verse 16. She considereth a field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planted a vineyard. She wants to multiply whatever they have in their family. In other words, this woman wants to, she knows how to invest. Okay, their money. Okay, so it would be multiplied. So she would consider a field. So before buying it, she would consider if it's good, if it could be profitable. So before she buys it, and with the fruit of her hands she planted a vineyard. Verse 17, she girded her loins with strength and strengthened her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. So whether it's going to the market for food, buying real estate, or planting a vineyard, she's up early and busy with her chores. So you get the impression that by night before she makes a list of things to do and doesn't waste a minute of idleness. She's a very organized woman. Because you would know if the woman is organized, because when you get to their house, you would know. If it's messy or something like that, you know it. So this woman is organized. Now, so she works vigorously, whether spinning thread, helping the poor, or providing a wardrobe for her children. And she prepares the very best for her family. And they have no reason to be ashamed. Now, the third one is, she is a generous person. It tells us in verse 20, she stretcheth out her hand to the poor, yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. Now we will discuss this, because there are a lot of things mentioned about the poor and helping the poor in the book of Proverbs, and we'll discuss that some other time. But this woman is generous because she also helps the poor and also is concerned with the needy. So as she ministers to her family, she keeps her eyes open for people who have needs, and she does what she can to help them. Now look at Proverbs 14 verse 21. He that despiseth his neighbor sinneth, but he that hath mercy on the poor, happy is he. Amen. The Lord teaches us to be merciful. Amen. Even Jesus said, blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. If you are merciful, by the time you need mercy, you will have mercy from God. Amen. So happiness comes to those who have mercy on the poor. Another scripture, Proverbs 19 verse 17, he that hath pity upon the poor lendeth unto the Lord. Could you imagine you could even lend to the Lord? If you have pity upon the poor. So he that hath pity upon the poor lendeth unto the Lord, and that which he hath given will God pay him again. Whatever you give to the poor, God will pay you back. I believe that. Do you believe that? No, the Bible could not lie. Okay, whatever you give to the poor, God will see to it that He will repay you back. So nothing given to the Lord for them will ever be lost, because God can pay you back, reward you. Okay. The fourth one, she makes it easy for her husband to do his work. It tells you in verse 21, she is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry, and her clothing is silk and purple. You know, during those days, you know, they make their own clothing. So in those days, if you see the husband's clothing is very old, tattered, and worn out, it reflects the woman, because the woman usually make clothing for their household. Verse 23, her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. Now the city gate was the place where civic business was transacted. So her husband was one of the elders of the community. If you remember when we studied the book of Ruth, how Boaz went into the city gate, right? He gathered the elders. Why? Because during those times, the city gate serves as a courtroom, and in his word, they transacted their business. So this wife did her work and made it easier for him, or for the husband, to do his. So a husband and wife should complement each other as they each seek to fulfill their roles in the will of God. And the husband has his specific role, according to God's word, and the woman as well. So wise is the husband who recognizes his wife's strength and let her compensate for his weaknesses. Now, the fifth one, she is confident as she faces the future. This is a woman that's not afraid of the future. It says here, she maketh fine linen and selleth it, and delivereth girdles unto the merchant. That's buying, that's making and selling. Because during those days they're wearing robe. So girdles was one of the products that's in demand. So she's making girdles as an to give extra income for their family. Verse 25, strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. She's not afraid of the future. So in the Bible, to be clothed with something means that is a part of your life and reveals itself in your character and conduct. So strength and honor are her clothing. Now, for example, I'll give you an example. 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 9 to 10. In like manner also, that women adorn themselves in modest apparel, with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with broided hair or gold or pearls or costly array. So that's not the adornment of a woman, but which becometh women professing godliness unto good works. So the real beauty of the woman is her good works. It's her character. Now in Colossians chapter 3, 8 to 14. But now ye also put off all this. So putting off is the picture here is like a garment that you put off. Okay, it's like a clothing that's being put off. But now ye also put off all this: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. Lie not one to another. Be honest. Seeing that ye have put off the old man with his deeds, and have put on, so just like putting on a garment, and have put on the new man, which is renewed in knowledge after the image of him that created him. Where there is neither Greek nor Jew, circumcision nor uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian, bond nor free, but Christ is all and in all. Put on therefore as elect of God, holy and beloved, bowels of mercies, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, long-suffering, forbearing one another, and forgiving one another. If any man have quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so also do ye. So we have to put on all these things, okay, as Christians. And above all these things, put on charity, love, which is the bond of perfectness. That's why you would see in that the bond of perfectness, the capstone is love. So verse 25 tells us that strength and honor are her clothing. So to be clothed with strength and honor means that they are part of her life and are revealed in her character and conduct. So the wife can laugh at future problems and troubles. Why? Because she has the strength of character and she's prepared for emergencies. She's a woman of faith who knows that God is with her and her family. Now, another thing, another quality, she is capable teacher of wisdom. Verse 26 tells us, she openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. What a verse. So, this woman certainly teaches her children the wisdom of God, especially the daughters, preparing them for the time when they will have homes of their own. So she knows how to train the children. She would utter wisdom. But it's likely that she also shares her insights with her husband, because she opened her mouth with wisdom. And the husband that is wise enough would listen. You know, there are husbands that don't really listen to their wife. The reason is because the Lord told Adam, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of your wife, cursed is the ground for thy sake. So they use that, so they don't listen. Okay? They don't even listen to the opinion of their wife, which is not so, no? Because we have to be balanced. Because God also told Abraham, listen to the voice of your wife. So we shouldn't take one scripture and make conclusion. Because you remember the story when Sarah suggested to Abraham, cast out that bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman would not be heir with my son, and Abraham wouldn't listen. But the Lord rebuked him, listen to the voice of your wife. In other words, we men, we don't know it all. And we could not be right at all times. So we should also know how to listen to our wife. They are your partners. Help me. Are you catching that? Now, so there's always a balance of things. The seventh one, she is attentive overseer of her household. Verse 27 says, she looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. So she oversees the household. So she isn't idle, and nothing in the household escapes her notice, whether it's food, finances, clothing, and school lessons, whatever it is. Okay, she takes notice of that. Now, managing the household is an exciting job, and she does her work faithfully day and night. You know, the husband and father who thinks that the wife had it easy should take her responsibilities for a week or so and discover how wrong he is. Because the wife's responsibility is not easy. If she's just taking care of the children, you try a week or so. You would know how difficult it is to take care of your children. Okay. So the wife's responsibility is a great responsibility. Now, the eighth one, she is a woman, or she's a woman worthy of praise. Verse 28, her children arise up and call her blessed. You know that feeling if your children will call you blessed? Her husband also, and he praised of her. And what would the husband say? You know, many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest in all.
Amen.
Oh my. Could you imagine the husband would say that? Okay. Oh, you're different, you're special. You excel them all. So, you know, it's a wonderful thing when husband and wife, it's a wonderful thing, I just want me to say, when husband and children can praise wife and mother for her faithful ministry in the home. The suggestion here is that this praise was expressed regularly and spontaneously and not just on special occasions. Because remember, during those times, Israel didn't have Mother's Day. So every day should be Mother's Day and Father's Day. You're catching that? So it's tragic when the members of a family take one another for granted and fail to show sincere appreciation. So it's showing us here, okay, whatever good qualities of your spouse, you must learn to appreciate. You know, some people would only, take notice of something when the spouse did something wrong. But with all the good qualities, they don't take notice. So it's very a good thing to be expressive with these things. Okay. So let's show appreciation to our spouse. Not flatter, but appreciation. Because the wife would know if you are flattering her. If she, for example, if she cooks and accidentally she put much salt into it, and when you taste it, you said, "Oh, this is so nice." No, that's flattering. Pambobola yun. So, I believe that if you would just really look, you would see lots of good qualities of your wife. Okay? So that you could really appreciate. So the father ought to set the example for the children and always thank his wife for what she does for the family. Because the role of the wife is not that easy. So as husband, we should thank our wife. Thank you for taking care of our children. Thank you for this and that. And we must show appreciation. And I believe what you sow is what you reap. And if we are appreciative of our wife, then they will do the same for us. So we should see in her the woman who surpasses them all. So I just have 10. So this is second to the last. Now, the ninth is the secret of her life is that she fears the Lord. So this is the secret why she can do these things. That's why we were discussing the fear of the Lord last Tuesday. It says in verse 30, favor is deceitful and beauty is vain. But a lot of women nowadays, they put a lot of emphasis on beauty, right? They would spend a lot of money just to enhance the beauty. But whatever you do, you will still grow old. You would have wrinkles. You would have gray hair. The only thing that won't fade out is if you have a godly character in you. That's the thing you would bring up to heaven. So it says here, favor is deceitful and beauty is vain. But nowadays, the emphasis is on beauty instead of character. But a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. So this is her secret. She's a woman that fears the Lord. It's wonderful if a wife has charm and beauty, the possession of these qualities is not a sin. So it's okay, it's all right. It's not a sin if your wife is beautiful, just like mine. It's just a bonus to me. Do you agree?
Amen.
If you don't agree, I'll let Sandra know about it. But the woman who walks with the Lord and seeks to please Him has a beauty that never fades. That is the hidden man, as Peter calls it. Being adorned with meek and quiet spirit. So the man who has a wife who daily reads the word, meditates, prays, and seeks to obey God's will has a treasure that is indeed beyond the price of rubies. She's indeed a virtuous woman. And lastly, her life is a testimony to others. Verse 31 tells us, give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. Her husband and children acknowledge her value and praise her, but so do the other people in the community, because they see her character. You know what Boaz told Ruth? It is known in this city that you are a virtuous woman. It is known. So even the leaders in the city gate recognize her good works and honor her. Because her husband here is working in the city gates. Even those people working there, they know what kind of wife this person has. Now, Proverbs 11 verse 16. This will be my last scripture. A gracious woman retaineth honor. In other words, a kind-hearted woman gains respect. Now, God sees to it that the woman who faithfully serves Him and her family is properly honored. And certainly, she will have even greater honor when she stands before the Lord. So this beautiful tribute to a godly wife and mother tells every Christian woman what she can become if she follows the Lord. You will become like this woman. It also describes for every Christian man the kind of wife for whom he ought to be looking and praying. So if you're a bachelor, this is the kind of wife that you ought to be looking for. But you know, the beauty will fade. So what is important is character. But it also reminds the prospective husband that he'd better be walking with the Lord and growing in his spiritual life so that he will be worthy of such wife if and when God brings her to him. So we could also see this quality of a virtuous woman. Now don't think, men, that this is only for your wife. But we know that we are also the wife of Jesus Christ, and we want also to be virtuous. We have to be diligent. His strength and honor will be our clothing. You see that? We honor the Lord. We are diligent. We do something for His kingdom, and we want all of us to be a virtuous wife of Jesus Christ. Amen. And we could see all these qualities in the book of Proverbs. You know, there are a lot more that we could learn from the book of Proverbs. I'm just limiting it for today to husband and wife. And in the succeeding series, we will talk about parents to children, or our relationship with friends and neighborhood. You know, all those things are given in the book of Proverbs. Because the Lord wants us to have a happy life, an enjoyable life. Amen. That's why I told you that this Bible is a balanced book. It has what it takes to live a happy married life, a joyful life as Christians. So we want to be a virtuous woman. So as we study this virtuous woman, if there are certain qualities that is not yet present in you, don't be discouraged. Take it as a challenge. Say, Lord, there are things that I needed to improve. I want to be a virtuous woman. a godly wife and a godly mother to my children. So there are a lot of things to learn. So thank God for His wisdom. So we will end here, and shall we all stand? But I also know the situation of some families here that both are working. Of course, the husband should also consider that, should also be considered when it comes to that. So let us all pray and let's ask for God's blessing. Lord Jesus, I know, Lord, that the Bible is a manual. Lord, it's our guide. Because you want us to walk in your wisdom. And Lord, I believe that Lord, it would guide our behavior, our lifestyle, our walk. And thank you, Lord, because Lord, for his wife and family. And let it be that kind of love, Lord, that we would have to our spouse. Help us grow in love. Lord, in your concern to us. Lord, you're concerned in every aspect of our life. Lord, not just for our individual life, but also, Lord, in our family, our relationship with others, with our wives, our colleagues, with our friends. Lord, because we know